This is one of my favorite tags ever. Hi Arrows, I'm Kashawn and you are watching The Book Archer. Today we are doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I love this tag. I will probably do this every year if I remember to. This tag was created by Cami over at It's Cami and Ellie at Earl Grey Books, so I will leave a link down to both of their channels below. Let's jump right into it because I have some things to say. Question number 1. Best book you've read so far this year. Coming by Michelle Obama. Now I will say that I have had like a really bad reading year, meaning I have not read a lot of stuff that has blown me away, so this still has the potential to be dethroned, but as of late nothing has been able to knock it off its pedestal. The main thing that I think about when I think about this story and this biography, I think about the fact that no one else can write this story. No one else is ever going to be able to give me a life account of what it is like or was like to be the first black woman first lady of the United States, like the first ever black FLOTUS. There is no one else that can write that story, and when I think about the things that I enjoyed about this novel, Michelle's life in like her middle to late 20s, which is what I related to the most. Just the timeline of how everything played out and how fast everything kind of transpired. Hearing it from the perspective of a very ambitious and very hardworking and very successful woman. So it was just so great hearing Michelle's story. Question number 2, best sequel you've read so far this year. Y'all, all the sequels I have read this year have either not liked or they've been mediocre at best, so you can take this with a grain of salt. But the best sequel I have read this year is Defy Me by Tahereh Mafi. I just finished this book a few days ago. Tahereh Mafi is doing the same thing with this second half of this series that she did with the first half for me, where I read Shatter Me and I was kind of like meh, but then I got to the end of, or the middle of Unravel Me, and I was like, okay, this is making sense. She does a really good job of an overarching storyline, but y'all, Restore Me, when that came out last year, it was a rough ride. So I was very surprised when I actually ended up enjoying Defy Me. Once I got past the first 50 pages, I started feeling those same feelings that I feel when I'm reading a Tahereh Mafi book or when I'm reading this series. So there was a lot more parts in here that I enjoyed than in the last book, and I'm really interested to see how the last book in the second half of this trilogy wraps up, because I want to know if I will love it as much as I love the last book in the first half of the trilogy. So yeah, this is best sequel I've read so far this year. New releases you haven't read yet but want to. Okay, so the first new release that I have not read yet but want to get to is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. As you guys know, this book came out a few months ago. I think I mentioned it in a haul video, which I will link down below. I have not gotten to this yet because I just have not been in a mood for contemporary at all, like not even a little bit. I might pick this up this month. I'm kind of starting to feel more of a mood to read it, but this was one of my most anticipated reads, and I just hear that a lot of people like this one more than The Hate U Give, and I'm just excited to just see where this story goes. I haven't even read the full synopsis. I haven't watched any reviews, so I am going into this with a completely blank slate with no expectations, just in the mindset of enjoying Angie Thomas's writing. So I really cannot wait to read this. Another new release that I have not yet read and still want to read is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. Oh my god, I hope I'm saying her name right because I just forgot it. But that is the author of The Poet X, which came out last year. I loved The Poet X. I read it last year. I will leave a link down to the wrap-up video where I talk about it, but I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I've been hearing a lot of good things about it on BookTube recently, and I have it already in my cart to purchase, so I will be ordering that really soon. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. One of my most anticipated releases for the second half of the year is the next book in, or the last book, the finale book in the Three Dark Crowns quartet. As you guys know, if you've been watching my channel, this is the only fantasy series currently that I'm reading right now that I'm really like loving and enjoying. And I just want to know how this book, the series, wraps up. I am highly anticipating it because every single book in the series has not ended the way I thought it was going to. The author always takes the ending and it's something totally different than what I was expecting, but it's not so far left that it doesn't make sense, which has made it very enjoyable. So I just really want to know, how does it end? Like, what happens? It comes out in September and you better believe, but yes, this is high on the highly anticipated new releases for later on this year. And then of course the other one is the Forgotten Girl, India's book over at Books and Big Hair, which comes out in November. I think I am finally going to read that this month or maybe next month. I'm really excited, and I'm excited for the release for her. Biggest disappointment. Y'all, this book for me was a major letdown. I was highly anticipating it. I love this author's work, and y'all have heard me mention her on my channel multiple times, but this book was not it for me, and that is The Everlasting Rose by Dhonielle Clayton. This is book 2 in the Belle's, like, see, even the way this ended, I don't know if it's the Belle's duology, trilogy. I have so many thoughts on this book, and if you've read this, I really want to discuss it. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to figure out like if I'm gonna do a review, if I'm just gonna talk about some disappointing reads. I need to figure out something because I have got to share my thoughts on this, but this was very disappointing for me. I just thought that after book 1, she had set up this phenomenal world. The story had so much potential, and then there are so many elements of this story, even elements that were introduced in this book, that would just make for such a great story. But the way the plot played out, I literally at the end of the book was like, what the hell? Like, that was my literal reaction. So I don't know, it was not enjoyable for me. It was a rough ride. I have a lot of thoughts, so I'll have to figure out how to do some other video on it. But if you've read this one, please comment down below, because I was so sad, because y'all know I love Dhonielle. But yeah, this was very disappointing. Number 6, biggest surprise. The biggest surprise for me this year was Truly Devious. So this is Truly Devious, which I listened to on audiobook. That book was a huge surprise for me because I was very surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Ever since I read that book, I have been on like a mystery kick, which I will talk to you about a little bit more in a later video. But yeah, I've been on like a really big YA mystery kick, and it all started off with that book, which is set at a boarding school where one of the characters is trying to solve a cold case from like the 30s, but then there's another mystery in the present day going on at the same time, and all of the elements kind of tie together. I was just very surprised by how much I enjoyed that, because I usually do not read mysteries, or I haven't in a long time. It kind of just jump started me into like this direction of a subgenre that I really want to explore a lot more of. So yeah, that's definitely the biggest surprise so far this year. Number 7, favorite new author, debut or new to you. And this kind of ties back into my last answer. Maureen Johnson is the author of Truly Devious, and I'm like 90% sure she has other books because I just remember hearing her name before, and I never had any interest in picking up any of those. So she would probably have to be one of my new favorites right now. Newest fictional crush, I don't have one, but The Darkling is like the number 1 forever, so that's that. Next question, book that made you cry. Not to repeat, but Becoming is the only book that really made me cry. I cried when Barack's grandma had just passed away, so close to him being elected, and she was not alive for that, and how Michelle's mom and Barack shared this very subtle but intimate moment right when they were like finding out that he won. And I don't know why, but that just like it just touched me so deep. And I cry like a lot during books. Like, I'm not one of those people that doesn't cry during books. I cry. So I'm really surprised that's the only book that's made me cry this year. That made you happy. For that one, I picked Rich People Problems by Kevin Kwan. I talk about this in one of my recent wrap-up videos, which I can leave a link down to below. This is the third book in the Crazy Rich Asian. This is the third book in the Crazy Rich Asian. Oh my god, y'all, I cannot say the word. This is the third book in the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy, and I absolutely like these books. Are so funny to me. They are hilarious. These books really make me happy. I'm so sad this trilogy is over because it was a fun time. Number 12, I'm gonna put number 12 and number 13 together because it's the most beautiful book that you've bought so far this year. And then the next one is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So let me go ahead and put these together. So the most beautiful book that I have bought this year is Kingdom of Ash. Y'all, I am just now purchasing Kingdom of Ash this year. Can you believe it? If you've been following my channel forever, you already know like how crazy that is. I just think this is the most beautiful one. I was not at all expecting this last book to be like gold, and I just think that it's so gorgeous. And of course, aside from this, y'all know the cover of Queenie. Like, I stand that whole cover, but I don't feel like getting up to grab that. But yes, and this is also the books that I need to finish this year. Y'all, I have not read Tower of Dawn or Kingdom of Ash. I am determined to finish this series by the end of the year. Y'all know that I really loved, might be past tense, don't know yet, the Throne of Glass series, and I still have not read these two books when I used to be like faithful to it. But I think the way Empire of Storms, I didn't really enjoy Empire of Storms that much, and I didn't like the way that Sarah J Maas wrapped up the A Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy. So now I'm really very skeptical about how these last two books are gonna go, so I've been putting it off for over a year. Favorite book community member, I would have to say my favorite book community member right now is, what's her name, Little Wolf Reads? Y'all, I don't remember people's names. I'm about to just look on my phone. Yeah, Little Wolf Reads. I will leave a link down to her channel below as well. But yeah, that's probably my favorite book community member this year, or so far this year. And I will be doing a whole separate video on like some booktuber shout outs. Alright, so those are all of the questions and answers for the mid-year book freak out tag.